All right, we are live, Mr. Mox. We are
We are
around.
live, but are we warm? That is the question.
We are warmer than Donler, apparently.
Apparently, minus 40 degrees. Good grief. And why would you shovel in minus 40 degree weather, sure? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
Crazy.
I don't want to know, so... yeah. Because I can only imagine how awful it is. No, it's terrible here. Like, we're streaming from North Texas, and I think it's like 11 degrees outside right now. With wind chill, it feels like minus 6 or something.
Is 13, but it feels like minus 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's awful. Terrible.
yes, awful, terrible for Texas.
For Texas, yeah.
I was out working today, and I went out in my shorts and t-shirt, and everybody asked me, "How can you not have a coat on?"
Are you Russian?
I am. I'm from up north. You know, it's just like, if I'm going from the house to the car, especially because I can start my car from my apartment, if I'm going from the apartment to the car, you know, I'm cold for 10 seconds. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, anyway.
Siri, please start the car.
Right, yeah. I have done that in the past before,
really?
For coworkers and spouses and girlfriends and all that. Yeah, you just grit your teeth and go out and do it. You know that. Like, you have a wife.
Yes. But now everybody just pushes the button.
And the kids now to start it, though, right?
No, you can't. Everyone who has kids understands. Do it yourself. What? It's worth. It's worth it.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to our. I guess this is going to be our final live stream of this year. I've enjoyed these, and they definitely will continue into next year.
Yes, they will for sure.
So, how is everybody else doing? Besides being cold, is everybody else doing well tonight? Hello there, Nagasaki. He helped me out this morning. It sends me a message that says, "Hey, great article in the Pantheon newsletter." I was like, "That's out already?" I went looking for the link and I couldn't find it. And he sent it to me because apparently it hadn't been like officially promoted yet, but the link was live, so.
Okay.
Somebody had found it. Like, you know, there must be somebody like refreshing that, like
refreshing the Pantheon page over and over again for the news. That's fun.
Kind of like they want to buy concert tickets or something.
That's hilarious.
But a big thanks to Minus and the crew for featuring us. We super appreciate it. You know, as we mentioned in the article, the Pantheon community has been very welcoming, and I'm glad that we were able to take part in that. So.
Yes, or be taken apart in that, as the case may be.
Right. We did get slightly edited. I don't know if you noticed that, Sechari. Did you read it? Did you
I read it. I didn't notice any edits. What?
One of my jokes at somebody's expense got removed.
Oh,
was the VR.
Poor taste.
I won't say exactly what, because apparently they didn't want me to poke fun at that. But you know, hey, yeah. I guess getting 98% of what we wanted through is good enough.
Well, you know what we'll do is we'll release the full unredacted article on our Patreon.
On our Patreon, there you go, yes.
2 patrons who have been nice enough to get on Patreon, even though we never update it. So thank you, guys. Yes. Thank you both.
Fungal infection was still in, as well as the pleading for a introduction to the heads of another inferior gaming studio.
Yeah. All right, so
hey, you agreed with that, ha ha ha, and that is forever on the internet, sir.
Oh, that was just like let's move on, kind of a thing. So fungal infection was still in there. Thank you, Nagasaki. I think that might have been his favorite line, because he mentioned it to me in a DM today, so like the fungal infection. So. All right,
awesome.
So we have some content to discuss tonight, don't we?
Yeah.
Mox.
So we had available to us the full 2-hour co-stream.
Yes, we did.
But we kind of felt like that would be a bit much to kind of go through and dissect, like fight by fight, and like do a play-by-play. That wouldn't exactly be entertaining, I don't think. You know, it's great. It's out there. It's worth watching. But Bazgrim did us a favor and did a breakdown of it, did all the editing for us, and so, you know, we're super grateful to him. So we're going to take a look at his review of Coh's pre-alpha session that happened just last week. And for those of you that don't know, I'm sure everybody here knows, but in case there's people that don't know who Bazgrim is, Bazgrim has been a long-time content creator for Pantheon, specifically for Pantheon. Like, he doesn't diversify.
He's the OG.
Yeah, he is. The legend, exactly, Donner. He's got a nice following, but if you don't follow him yet, please make sure you do, because his content is great. He generally will do long form breakdowns like this that are, in the 15, 20-ish minute range of various content, and then he also does the Baz Flash, which is great.
It's
and
briefer than
as
our briefs, that's for sure.
Mentioning, he's got the Pantheon library as well, which I'll make sure to add to the description of this. Also, he holds a distinction within the community, being one of the first non-Visionary Realms people to play the game at TwitchCon a few years back. I think I was chatting with him today. He told me it was back in 2017, and he is just that was just so cool that he was picked out from the community to kind of be the first fan to play the game. And he said that it really was the nascence of his YouTube career. He didn't even have a channel back then. He just was a supporter and got to play. He actually got to play with Brad, which is really super cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, he's got pictures from time to time. On the anniversary of Brad's passing or something, he will share them on Twitter and stuff. So it's really good to see.
Nagasaki, he told me today when I asked him, I said, "Were you the first?" He said, "No. A few of the press got their hands on it before he did. So he was one of the first non-VR people, but he was the first fan, person that at the time he wasn't even really considered a YouTuber or anything. So he was just a fan, a supporter, and I had to check with him too, because I sent a message. I'm like, hey, you posted something a while back and said that you were the first to play it. What's the story with that?" So he clarified it for me. So easy to make the mistake. I was about to. I'm glad I asked him, because I was going to be like you and be like, he was the first, and then I've been like, oh, I have to make a retraction.
I hate it when Mox retracts.
Right, amen. All right, so you want to take a look at the Bazgrim analysis of the CohhCarnage view of the.
Yeah, we will react to his reaction to CohhCarnage's reaction to the game.
Right, exactly.
All right, here we go.
Streamed unguided organic gameplay of Pantheon Rise Fallen.
We missed a second.
Unguided organic gameplay of Pantheon Rise Fallen from a live pre-alpha server. While CohhCarnage has streamed Pantheon many times before, this was the first time it had ever been done on his own without any direction from the developers. These pre-alpha tests have always been under strict NDA, but now that CohhCarnage is an investor in Visionary Realms, he can more or less do whatever he wants.
I don't think so.
So for those who haven't tested...
I was about to say the same thing.
There's no way. Sure. I bet you they established some boundaries and said, okay, you can't go there, right? Like, there's places you can't go, there's things that you can't show. Here's a list of these things. Check. Okay, now go, right? So within
I don't
boundaries.
think there was there aren't things you can show, because whatever he had access to, you could only go so far. You couldn't, the city's walled off. You can't go into the city. So there definitely were things that you can't, that were visible, you could see the exterior of the city, but you just can't go into it. So I don't think they would have said you can't go here. It more was we're not going to be playing with you. We're not going to be holding your hand going through the keep and, kind of nudging you along. It's, find your way type of thing. So I don't think he can do whatever he wants. I think if he wants, he probably can ask them, "Hey, I would like to do another stream," and that probably carries more weight at this point. But I don't think he had any special access to areas or anything.
Yeah, they would have limited him, to playable areas. Within those boundaries, do as you please. Which
right. And I think with the ongoing monthly VIP testing that's going to be happening going forward, I think we'll see these types of things probably more frequently from him, but I think there will be instances where it is specifically we are testing something and don't want it to go public with it just yet. If they added a new class or a new race, they want to stress test it and things like that. I don't think those will necessarily be live streamed, so I don't think we can expect monthly co-streams, but I think a few times in the next year we'll see it.
Yeah. A handful of times, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
themselves yet, this was the best opportunity in the history of the game's long and storied development to see the true state of the game.
I really love that.
You've got a great intro.
Yeah, it is. Before we proceed, I want to say I'm going to be honest with what I'm seeing here in the game, right? Because this is a reveal of that, right? So we're seeing the game as well. We're not just reacting to Bazgrim, we're also reacting to Co. We're also reacting to the game. So I'm going to shoot straight like I see it as we go through here. All right.
Our journey with CohhCarnage starts at the desktop of his computer, where we see him click on the Pantheon icon to go to the patcher, the login screen, server selection screen, a loading screen,
I love the character
and then
art. That's
to
great.
a shiny
Great
character selection screen. He, of course, did not already have a character to select, so he clicks on New, which brings up the character creation screen. Here, he comes up with a name.
Outside of the water, this is a terrible character selection screen. Like, the water's cool, but everything else is just like, it's okay. It's a wall.
Yeah, it's stairs that go to nothing because there's water behind it. Right,
Yeah.
I mean, so we can pick it apart all we want. It's not going to be worth anything.
I think it would be better if it had like an island behind it or something that was more tied to the water,
or just like gray cloud or something, like some kind of ethereal something. I don't know.
Yeah, but again, early. I'm not too upset by it, but I do hope it gets updated.
But I will say this: I mean, a nice looking sunset, right? I mean, you know, it's worth a little bit seeing what capabilities the engine might have with what graphics we're able to see already. I think
fair enough.
Fair enough. And also some of the artistic direction, you can kind of see, you know, some conceptual, 3D things in the engine. So.
And Crinkled, you're right. EverQuest isn't much better, but EverQuest is 23 years old or something like that at this point. So, Yeah.
Or is that much worse?
And is presented with two drop-down boxes for race and class, and a toggle between male and female. The races currently available are human, elf,
ogre. Is it ogre? The red-skinned, right? That's the one that they've done the dire lord with before.
Yeah, that's the big one.
That still feels a little low poly count to me. Just having looked at the model, it just feels low poly to me. I don't know. I know they're redesigning all of this stuff. They have to get the human right first before they do all the rest. So just based on what I'm seeing there. But look at that. I mean, look at what we pause on right now. Right? There's a gnome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're seeing some pretty cool things here. You know, some of the concepts at least.
That's what I ran around with so far. I haven't dabbled in any other races.
You're going to do a gnome enchanter, right? That's your plan ultimately? Yeah.
halfling, ogre, dwarf, and gnome, meaning that Archai, Darkmere, and Scar are not yet implemented.
Isn't it
And the
Darkmere?
classes currently available are Monk, Cleric, Rogue, Wizard, Enchanter, Shaman, and Dire Lord, which means that Druid, Paladin, Ranger, Summoner, and Warrior are also not yet implemented. While there will eventually be race class combination restrictions, these are also not yet in effect. As he selects each of the different races and classes, there is a little bit of lore for them revealed at the bottom for those that are into that sort of thing. Ko settles on a human monk. There are currently no character appearance customization options available because all of these character models will be replaced. I saw a lot of people express their disappointment about the character models in the comments, and that's totally understandable because these are not final.
Right, absolutely.
Visionary Realms recently hired a new character artist and an animator who are working on the real character models. Some of them, such as the human and Darkmere, are already made but just haven't been implemented into the game yet. Next, Ko had 2 attribute points to assign however he wanted between the 8 attributes. The starting values of the attributes depended on which race was selected, but in general, they started anywhere from 5 to 8. Now, I will say the character creation screen is currently lacking details about what each of these attributes do, as well as the unique abilities inherent to each race. Pantheon is designed such that increasing an attribute by even 1 point should feel meaningful, so knowing what each of them do is important to know when starting out. Fortunately, this information is available elsewhere, which I'll put on the screen if you're curious, but
Alright, so there it is. I'll just pause it there for a second so people can, have an easier time I know I had to freeze it a few times when I was first looking for it.
All right. These are very D&D-esque. I don't see anything with except stamina, right? We have dexterity. Well, there is dexterity there as well.
Right. Yeah, so you basically have agility and dexterity, which sound very similar, but they are... agility really looks like it handles dodging and accuracy, whereas dexterity is damage.
Okay, one is defensive, one is offensive. Yeah, usually, right. Usually I know, like, especially with bowmen and range, right, dexterity may be the one you want to look at, as, right. But then it also makes you more agile. It's interesting that they have them split into two here.
Yeah. Yeah, and the interesting thing is if you read through this, it really, like, kind of some of them, like, obviously strength isn't going to matter much for a caster, but casters might be interested in agility to be able to dodge attacks.
Absolutely.
They obviously they're going to be caring about intellect, wisdom, charisma, like, so your stat isn't just going to be I have a main stat and maybe a secondary stat. You might be looking at dabbling in multiple abilities and such. Blank, to answer your question, I don't know why they went with Unity versus Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine would have been cool, but I don't know. It might have been a money thing. I'm not exactly sure how all that licensing works. Yeah. Somebody told me, and I don't know where I heard this, that you don't pay for your development time with an engine, but you pay once you launch. And that's to encourage people to use your engine. So I don't know necessarily that it would be, right. How that would affect it.
I have seen some really cool, like really, really cool Unity graphics.
Yeah.
Really cool. So I have no doubt that Unity can deliver really good graphics. It's just, Unreal is really cutting edge. I think, if another thing as well is, remember, this thing started 9 years ago, right? What was available at the time? Unreal 5 was certainly not at the time. Right.
No,
so
Unreal was, though.
Yes, yeah, Unreal was, but an earlier version of it. So it may have been that Unity made the most sense, maybe given what they had, the resources. There's a lot of different reasons that they could have picked Unity, but obviously things evolve over time, right? Unreal 5 has since come out, and so, I know compared to
Ashes is taking every advantage of that.
They are, and it's going to be a great engine, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily concerned with Unity. I think we're going to see some cool things out of it, but
right, and especially since they hired new artists that their focus is making it look prettier. That hasn't up till a few months ago not been a something they're pushing.
Right. The world will begin to evolve. Right.
Yeah.
There is a button to suggest how you allocate these points for your selected class if you don't know any better. With that, he hit Enter World and
so he did not assign
Terminus. More specifically, the monk's starting area.
No, I think he did assign points.
Okay, right on the front end?
He goes on to say he forgot to put his abilities on the bar before he went out in the world and died.
Right. I love it. It's so rookie mistake. It's
now, it's worth mentioning that while each race will eventually have their own starting city, all races start outside Thrown Fast for the purposes of pre-alpha testing, as the other starting cities haven't been built up enough yet.
All right, I want to comment really quick here, just on what we're seeing so far, right? You can tell that they've done a lot of work on the grass. There's a lot of texture coming in there. That's looking great.
Right.
The trees obviously need to be evolved. Some trees look very unicolor, right? So there's a yellow tree or a green tree, or you know what I'm saying. So there's not much that we're seeing there. Again, a lot will be evolved there. The textures, right? You're seeing just straight gray textures. Things don't tend to be very much in shape. Like a column is a column, and it's so things are still very rudimentary, at least as far as assets are concerned.
I think they probably just plopped this down to have a platform to put the starting NPCs. I don't think the goal here was to make it the most dynamic area.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
We see Cohh sharing his starting area with halflings, elves, etc. Although, even with Throne...
I see, look at that right there at the top, that kind of black outline thing. That is a perception ping that he got, like, right off the bat.
This must be the Temple of the Five Gates. That sounds a little lore-y to me, that maybe they did intend that to be a starting area.
Wow. You could follow some of the perception stuff, if I recall. If you got a ping for it, you could hunt for the next piece. How far that went is a whole other question.
Yeah.
The city itself isn't done yet. It's safe to say that at least some of these class starting areas for the humans will be relocated inside the city walls themselves when the time comes. Fortunately, there is a huge low-level adventure area outside the city to house this early player experience. After
I don't know that that is necessarily true. I actually kind of like the idea when MMOs have you start in a small starting area and you eventually discover the city, as opposed to here's this huge city, find your way around and find your way out. Like that makes a little bit less sense to me and seems a little bit less enjoyable to me. I'd rather start out.
I think I agree. Every MMO I've played, you have some adventuring to do before you arrive at the city or the central place, and arriving there is a nice. Okay, I've been released into the community.
It's a benchmark. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think I fully agree on that.
We see that the world is looking a lot better than the gray box state it was in just last year. And according to Cohh, performance was stable at 40 to 60 FPS. Right off the bat, Cohh instinctively talked to the monk class trainer, who sent him off on his first quest, a grand and daring quest to kill a rabbit and a snake. As Cohh sets off into the wilderness, we can see quite a few unfinished NPC models, but we can also see that the area is quite populated with other pre-alpha testers.
These
and
may
the
just be Unity assets,
OOC, or out-of-character chat channel between players was very active. Reports are that the test session 2 months prior saw over 500 concurrent players here outside Thronefast, thanks to Visionary Realms' new proprietary network solution, Vinyl. Now, you might have thought I was joking about Cohh's daring quest to go kill a rabbit and a snake, but the first snake he finds, he dies to it. This is a textbook example of how difficult Pantheon is, even at level 1. For one thing, Cohh forgot to assign any of his starting abilities to his hotbar, so he was only auto-attacking. And
unforgivable MMO veteran noob mistake, which it would happen to me. So, you know. So let me ask you a question, because he mentioned here, okay, look how unforgiving Pantheon is, even at level 1. Should it be that you have to have a boxing match with a rabbit? At level 1.
I mean, honestly, if you go try to go kill a rabbit with your bare hands, like, it's not going to be exactly easy. Now, that being said, it is difficult. I think I died like 9 times in my first hour.
Really? So I wonder maybe...
Do you think it's a little too hard? Yeah. Yes, and we gave that feedback, and they did adjust it on day 2.
So I know that in classically spirited MMOs, right, and I'm thinking even back to some of the MUDs, right, some of the text-based MMOs that are out there, multiplayer, whatever, right, you'd go out there and it'll be like, okay, hey, there's a rabbit. Well, you throw a stone at a rabbit. Well, the rabbit jumps and bites you. Now, and then it's turn-based, so you do this to the rabbit, then the rabbit does something to you, then you do this and the rabbit, and then you manage to dodge. But you have this whole back and forth with a rabbit, 6 turns before you manage to kill it, assuming that it doesn't kill you, right, with a rabbit. Right. Compare now to, and I'm actually, this is more about design than this is about, you know, this, right? Compare this now to New World, which I think is a good example of things acting like they should when you run across them. A deer will see you and freak out and go running, right? A turkey will, right?
Okay, I hear you.
Free one, right? Should a rabbit do that too? Is that, I get classically spirited MMOs. You would fight with a rabbit and you'd have a boxing match with a rabbit. That's what classic MMOs used to do. I know that's what Pantheon is doing. Should it? Or should that evolve?
It's a good question. Like, there were definitely, as you'll see, like, there's spiders and snakes and things like that, things that would tend to be a bit more aggressive. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, that I
knew Donner. I knew somebody would go, oh, hey, let's get that.
I think that I guess their combat is combat. You aggro something, it is going to attack you. I get what you're saying about New World, and I definitely do tend to agree that your critters would tend to not attack. And I think that in New World, your rabbits, your turkeys, and even to a certain extent the deer, even though they would come back and like try to trample you,
yes,
they would do that infrequently. So yeah, I get.
Right. I mean, like in the pigs, right? You run across a boar, and it's going to be much more dangerous because
Yeah.
that's what you would
The
expect.
rabbit should have a 1% chance to cause instant death no matter level or gear. You mean to cause your death or their own death? Like you hit them and they die?
You better have a holy hand grenade.
Right?
You better count to 3. No higher, no lower. Take it out before it gets you.
Secondly, he forgot to consider his target, which would have shown him that the snake was at least 1 level higher than him. And in Pantheon, it's very difficult to kill something higher level than you without help.
I mean, I could
Koh
see losing
stated
to a
at the
snake.
beginning of the stream that he was feeling under the weather, so maybe we'll cut him some slack on this one. Maybe. Fortunately, at level 1, there isn't a death penalty, as he quickly learned these lessons of the harsh realities of Terminus. As he got the hang of things, he eventually discovered Pantheon's technique system, which is relatively new and allows access to different abilities depending on what weapon type you have equipped. These are in addition to the regular
and it's evading,
class
right?
abilities that you can acquire as
if
you
you're gonna
progress.
punch a frog,
being a level 1,
and it parries you, right? I mean, what's a bark toad doing parrying you?
I can't think if they did or not. But the toads had a pull that you can they could like throw their tongue at you and yank you to them, which is really cool. Yeah, I agree, Donler, that I think that the starting areas need to be tweaked down just a little bit, and maybe even adjust the experience you get per kill down to reflect that. But you shouldn't, and I told this to the devs that I shouldn't be dying 9 times as an experienced MMO player going out there and fighting stuff that's even con to me.
Right.
Even stuff that's 1 level above shouldn't be. Maybe it'll drain my resources, but it shouldn't be outright killing me.
He only had access to the most basic unarmed technique. He quickly figured out that when in combat, he generated a resource called readiness, which he could spend on his technique for some additional damage. With that, he was off and running, churning through the first level completely on his own.
Wandering Fist. He's doing better. It looks like I'm tracking the whether the attacks land and whether they are doing damage. And I mean,
gotcha.
Because you should be able to go out there and learn. Okay, the first fight didn't go so well. How do I improve that? And within 2 or 3 fights, you're doing much better. If it's going to be this challenging.
Yeah, and looking at the comments, so some people obviously were in the session. They said, I died a lot until I got a leveling buddy. What if you're new into the game and you don't know anybody yet? Like you're that brand new MMO player, and you come in and you die 6, 8, 9 times. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience. Yes, it should be difficult, but it should be difficult on a curve.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. You've got the tutorial section, which is the couple 3 first levels that have to be forgiving. You have to. They have to train you. Now, granted, game state, right? This is where we'll get when we get there. But you should be able to learn quickly. It should teach you the systems of the game. All of that should be up there in that front end. And whether it's learnable, I think, is what you're looking at for this level. If someone is able to learn and get the systems and acclimate very quickly, you've got a successful launch area and
agreed,
tutorial area.
That you'll always be required to group in Pantheon, take note. Although, as Koh correctly pointed out, you'll still need to watch your back.
One thing that they stress they're going to be doing in this game, which I can't tell you how much I love in games like this, is they made it clear that even though the world may be, kind of in sections, it's not like a theme park MMO where you go to a starting area and you kill all the enemies that are perfectly your level there. Then you go to the next quest hub and all the enemies there are perfectly your level. And then you go to the next area and all the levels are there. All the things are perfectly your level. Like one of the things you're going to do is, a great example is Oasis in EverQuest, where it's like you zone in and there's like level 11 and 10 caimans on the beach. And then you go in a little bit further and there's like, up to 18-ish orcs. And then in the middle, there's like level 44 specters. There's a sand giant wandering around that's mid-30s. So it's like, it definitely, the levels feel much more, I don't know if the word is immersive or alive, but not.
No, it's not the levels. It's the world that feels more immersive and alive that way. Last game I played like that was Witcher 3, right? Where you run into something, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm way overmatched, and you have to learn to run, go, do something else, and come back and handle it when you can. And that makes that makes areas ongoing, right? Like he's about to say it here. The world is more immersive. You don't, get done with the area and then move on and never come back to it.
Right.
There's more to it, right? And obviously night makes things different as well. We know that that's going to happen as well. But I would love over the course of the game's life cycle for that to be dynamic. There's new things that come in, right? Or seasons or night or whatever change, make that more dynamic. But over the evolution of the game, for that to happen, I think would be very cool as well. Bring some new things in as you go. So.
Oh, see, I did not know that Escape from Tarkov is a Unity game. I've seen that. I've never played it. I'm not a FPS guy, but it is an amazing looking game. So,
absolutely,
hopefully.
Unity can deliver. I mean,
yeah,
it's just a matter of getting it there.
Right.
Theme parky is the best way I can say it, which bugs the hell out of me, man. Yeah, authentic. That's a good word for it. But I can't tell you how much it takes me out of an MMO when it just moves you to the different quest hubs, and each quest hub is perfectly your level. And then once you're done with that, you never go back for any reason because there's nothing in those zones that will help you in the end game. That is so boring to me.
That they are, if you look at that rock, there was some like grass growing up and through and around and on the rock, right? I like that there's already some thought that's emerging that says, hey, it's not a rock and it's rock texture, and there it is. Put it in the world, right? There's some understanding of textures intermingle.
Right.
Getting things
the grass and it will interact with rock to some degree.
Yeah, moss, right, and all of those different things, right? And that may be more in more shady areas, right? Like your art design, if they're taking that into account, it's a good sign, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they're not doing in this game.
Before long, Ko turned in his first quest, which granted him some coin, but notably no XP. This is intentional and a good example of how Pantheon is not a quest hub-based game. Quests in Pantheon can reward you with money, items, abilities, even skills, but completing quest after quest is not the primary way of getting experience. Anyway, Coach...
All right. Should that be the case? What do you think, Mox?
As long as the long-term overall rewards feel meaningful, then I think that's okay. Pardon me, okay.
I wonder, right? Because if you don't get XP for the quest, you're disincentivizing the quest. Now, if I need money, now I've got an incentive to go do it, right? But at level 1, 2, and 3, what is my greatest driver? It's to get acclimated and to get to where I'm a little few higher levels, right?
Right.
I mean, hunger for levels is going to be the number. And I would say actually over the course of a leveling experience, hunger for levels is the primary driver for player motivation. In the end, it's gear, right? Once you get to max whatever. So to not have levels, and if all you're going to do is get rewarded with money, okay, so you get some gear out of it, maybe, but but I just think it disincentivizes, especially at this level where you need that XP more than
keep in mind that not only does so the one thing he didn't mention that will be an benefit from doing quests is faction, and faction is going to be a huge part of Pantheon. You need to go and do the stuff for these people so that they, in turn will possibly sell you an ability that you need or, to move on. So there will be reasons to do quests outside of experience. I do think that maybe I agree a little bit with Nagasaki that there should maybe be some experience given, but just not make it to the point to where quests are the focus of leveling. And I agree with you, Donler. The average player, I didn't understand faction when I played EQ at first. And same thing in WoW. Like if you made one mistake and killed one wrong NPC, you had days, if not weeks, of repairs to do.
I'm gonna say this as a person who never played EQ. Okay, I'm gonna step into this game and not have all that EQ in my background, which puts me at a disadvantage to you, Donler. Sparrow, those of you that have played this EQ stuff before, you'll know, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's all about faction, right? I don't know that. So how am I going to learn that? Oh, it's about, I've got to learn, really, it's about faction, right?
I could tell you how you can learn. EverQuest is getting a Unity update.
Oh, really?
So
Go play
maybe
EQ.
we should dabble our toes into it, Sechari.
I am playing. Yes, Nagasaki. I am planning on playing, if I can say that correctly, Pantheon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of P's in that. I'm gonna have to ride all y'all's coattails.
and really, the only thing that would mess that up would
Until I know what I'm doing.
and I don't see this happening, would be release dates that are on top of each other. Then
be a long
it's
time.
gonna be an issue. But I honestly see Ashes probably coming out probably a year before Pantheon.
Longer than that, I'll bet. I bet you with 3 years of Ashes.
3 years before Pantheon?
3 years. That's
Wow.
I think Ashes is a freight train at this point, and it's just it's going to be faster and faster getting to the finish line. But anyway, that's another. There's a talk show in there.
Day, sir, because I am going to have to break out my folding table and my cup of coffee and say Pantheon will be out within 3 years. Change my mind.
You better start. You better start funding, sir. They need investments.
I hear you.
Make it happen.
Chose to take the next step in his path to learning the ways of the monk. This quest instructed him to go find a crystal in the ruins to the southwest. It's at this time that Koh realizes that there is no map. And that's not just because it's pre-alpha and it hasn't been added yet. No, there is no map in Pantheon. Exploration and talking to other people to ask them...
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll buy it. I don't think Ashes is playing on a map either, if I recall.
No, they have a map.
I know there's a mini map. I don't know. There's the map.
There's a mini map.
Okay.
So at least have that.
Okay, so this is a difference between the two. Yeah, no, I played it and there was a map. Well, I don't know. I'm not thinking straight. Okay, so
there already are third-party maps, sir.
There's going to be third-party maps because there is a need, right, for people to be able to do things with maps.
Right.
New World we were playing, and you wanted to do a resource run, and there's a third-party map that somebody came up that shows you where you can go to get all of the whatever nodes and that nodes, right? Like the maps get created, they're going to be out there. People are going to do it, and people are going to come up with mods that you can refer to whatever, and it'll put the map up in front of you. I guarantee you that's going to happen. Right, where you've got a map mod that you can install in the game.
Well, if it's hooking into the game at all to grab your location, like that's going to be that'll be a no bueno.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and even if not that, you're going to have another second monitor with a map on it. I guarantee it.
Right. Oh yeah. So
for
sure.
Why not have the map in the game? Is this one of those classically spirited MMO things? And granted, now let me set that aside for a second. I do think it's cool that if you spend enough time in the world, you get to know the world by landmarks, and you kind of know where you are based on what's around you. That's cool. You're going to experience the world in a very different way, I think, to most people. But have MMOs evolved to the point where maps are a thing, and we should all have maps, and if you don't have maps, it hurts you. Hurts the game. Is there an answer to that?
I don't know that it hurts the game. I think that you basically are going to have... people are just going to have to get used to it. Just get used to not having them. Like, it just is the way it is.
Agreed.
That's a design choice. It's kind of like, do you then you fall down the rabbit hole of, well, WoW now allows every class to be every race. Do we have to do that? Pantheon has chosen no.
And how do I even know?
Yes.
How do I even know where that rabbit hole is, Mox? I don't have a map.
You follow the rabbits. You track them, and
Right.
you follow
the white rabbit. Hold on a moment. I have to have
That's
a boxing match with it first, and then I'll follow it.
Exactly.
Okay.
For help is at the heart of Pantheon. There is a quest journal to review what NPCs have told you, so with that, Koh headed off in the general southwestern direction. And
By the way, I
unsurprisingly,
like what Reasonable has said. No map to help push the social interaction. I think that's true. You're going to be asking, hey, I'm looking for the Goblin Cave. Can anyone tell me where? And so, that's a good point. I really like that idea.
I also wouldn't mind a high-level static map that doesn't show you or resources on it.
Okay.
That just once you've been in an area and have interacted in that area for a little bit, like kind of the map draws, like slowly reveals itself as you explore, but it's static. Not showing where you are, but you spend enough time in an area and you kind of get to know that, and maybe leave the dungeons out of that scenario.
I want to push back on something Nagasaki said is exploration too. I can see how you would explore because you got to get to know the place. So that would drive exploration. I am a person that the map with fog of war drives me to get rid of all that fog of war. It actually drives me to explore with a map. So I think the opposite, there's an opposite argument to be made as well. So.
And I'm sure that this is the same discussion that has happened over Visionary Realms many times. Like, or what are we, should we, shouldn't we, but eventually they just kind of made a decision they're not. So, but I'm sure that has happened before.
A little lost. But he discovered an area that he wouldn't have otherwise if there was a radar-style map with blinking icons showing him exactly where to go. And because this is an open-world game, when he ran into some trouble along the way, he could just ask for help from random passersby.
There's a Unity asset if ever there was one.
Next, he tested to see whether or not
a skeleton.
A skeleton.
That's very EQ, right? From gameplay I've seen of EQ, a skeleton is something you expect to fight, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: should they evolve that, or is because I realize this is like the spiritual successor to EQ. I get that, and a skeleton.
I think that there's time to evolve that, but having a skeleton be a low-level area in the low-level area is perfectly fine.
A skeleton, to me, it seems very unidimensional, underdesigned. A skeleton, right? Like you've got. How else do I say this?
You want it to be like a dwarven skeleton?
Yeah, do something different to make it not a skeleton. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Okay.
I don't know.
Keep in mind also, like you've said, this could be a boxed asset and not the final asset.
Yeah, totally. So it's something I would like to see more of, right? Like evolve that, make that skeleton cool. Tell me something about the skeleton. It's not just, oh my goodness, there's a bunch of bones running around here in the wilderness. I got to go kill a bunch of bones, right? Like, why is that skeleton animated, right? Is there, I don't know, is there something about the way it moves or the way that it tells me? Is it? It's some necrotic something or other, like color it, right? You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's black and white.
Yes, I got you.
So, needs nuance. That's a design thing, I think.
Private messages were working.
Yeah.
And I bet you can't guess who he sent a tell to.
I think Bazgrim's around here somewhere. Do tells work? Let's see if he's here. Oh yeah, look at that. Worked perfectly. That beautiful purple color and everything. Nice.
As Cohh looted things and sold things, he was able to buy more abilities from his class trainer. Although, as we can see, money isn't too easy to come by in Pantheon. Cohh was lucky to ever have more than a couple silver pieces on hand at any given time when starting out. Though, maybe that's fitting for a monk if he wanted to roleplay taking a vow of poverty or something.
Being a pauper.
Anyway, as Cohh continued to explore, he found that Pantheon's climbing system is fully functional.
Yeah.
He was able to climb on
Looks
anything
better,
he
doesn't
could
it?
get his hands on,
Does, yes.
as long as he had enough endurance for it.
See, that's what I was thinking about.
Displayed as a yellow bar right next to
moss, right, in the rock, so you see it here, and it's
yeah. Endurance, by the way, is also consumed by sprinting, which is done by holding down the shift key. Cohh soon discovered that the crystal he was looking for his quest was not yet added to the game, and then he immediately died to the next mob he found.
I want to know how he aggroed both
crash
of those,
in the
like
2
what he
hours
did.
that he played, but even when that happened, he was able to get back in game in under a minute. Exploring a bit more, Cohh found that just by talking to NPCs in town, he got sent on more quests. Again, there was no visual indication that those NPCs were meaningful. He just came across them and started a conversation.
So do you like that there's no big exclamation point over their head or something to indicate that there's that this NPC is important, leaving the more subtle exploration on your shoulders?
I think it's going to hurt. It would hurt me. I mean, like typically, I will talk to all the NPCs in an area anyway, just to see who's selling stuff. Is this a vendor? What is this? What does this vendor have that vendor doesn't have? So I kind of understand it all. As long as I would say, as long as the NPCs are very clearly distinguished from players, you can tell the difference. That's going to be necessary as a step.
You can by the name title, like it's white. The players' titles are different.
Yeah, that's good. I think that the thing, the exclamation mark above their head is classic MMO. It goes right back to the beginning. You know what I'm saying? I don't recall an MMO that I've ever played that doesn't have some kind of a quest giver marker. So why push back against that is kind of what I'm wondering. Why undo that?
You're a big believer in content locusts. Don't you think this slows that process down?
Yeah, absolutely. There will also be a lot of people that'll miss a lot of quests.
True enough.
But maybe quests don't matter, right? If this is much more sandboxy, because we were discussing a moment ago, hey, if quests aren't really the primary driver of XP generation, as a non-EQ player, my next thought is, okay, well, this is a grinder. I've got to go kill stuff.
Right.
That would be my
next assumption. This is exactly as how EverQuest was.
And if I don't see people giving me quests, I'm absolutely that's gonna reinforce that, right?
And also keep in mind, you need to hunt for interactive objects. Will not be obvious.
Yeah.
You need to go and look and click on the books, click on the key on the wall, all that stuff is going to be there as part of the perception system, and so there's a lot more intricate searching and exploration.
Here's what I think is really going to happen: is that the side website that gives us information about this game, the map, where to find this, where to trigger that quest, that's going to be the wiki, right, or whatever it is going to be the biggest one any MMO has ever had, because we're going to be so dependent on it.
Yep.
As if
By the way, we will be looking for people to write guides and things of that nature for our website. So if you're interested in that, when the game time comes around, make sure you hit one of us up.
Yeah. Apparently, there's going to be a huge need for it. So
yeah.
Conversation introduced him to the harvesting and crafting systems, or more specifically, the mining and blacksmithing professions. After trying to attack something with his mining pick still equipped, Cohh found himself in a bind again and in need of assistance from whoever just happened to be in the area.
That's great. A crow
Thanks
is
to
kicking his
Pantheon's
butt.
near-death system, even when Cohh hit 0 health, he was not dead yet. While near death, Cohh's health bar turned purple, his movement speed was greatly reduced, and he was not able to use any abilities.
Death saves.
However, he could crawl at the expense of bleeding out faster and falling closer to actual death. While anyone could have come and rendered first aid in this state to get him back up, Hermocles the cleric came to the rescue and hit Cohh with a heal to get him back on his feet. Although being recently revived, Cohh wasn't able to enter that near-death state again for a period of time while he recovered. Until then, if his health hit 0 again, he would not pass go, he would not collect $200, and he would go straight to death. This is important to keep in mind, as Cohh soon came across a massive troll under a bridge, which is a prime example of what he was talking about earlier, with higher level mobs being in the same general area as lower level mobs, meaning you really need to pay attention to what's around you. Cohh then died to a rat.
Okay, so you immediately need to pay much attention. Let me ask you this, having played this, because I imagine this is common knowledge. Do you have to tab select in order to see what level they are? An NPC is?
Yeah, you can consider them. You hit target them and hit C, and it tells you kind of where it falls.
Okay, that's good, because I wouldn't want to have to go start a fight in order to learn that stuff, right? I want to be able to consider that from a distance.
Yeah, Jim. It will definitely wanting to be doing class guides. I don't know that we'll go so far as to do every quest or hidden secrets about how to specifically do things. We may post hints of things like, hey, this is head over here if you want information about a certain faction. Go there and do your exploring. I don't know that we're going to be big enough. We have a friend, I don't know, the Volk from SWTOR, and he does everything, guides and class guides, builds, all that stuff. But again, he doesn't do specific quests.
I will say this, if I can, Mox. Our long-term vision for Disparate Worlds has always been to be a resource to the community. That and it became apparent to us that it's going to be a minute before we we get these games launch and we could ever get here. So we were content to do just the talk show in the meanwhile. And as you know, over the months, we've now evolved that into briefs, much smaller news covering things, and we're still going to keep doing the talk show and stuff. But as we get to where these games get into beta and get to the point where they launch, our plan has always been to scale up our team a little bit and to have some folks join us as members of our Disparate Worlds team. Now, obviously, we're not paying squat. Ain't nobody getting paid for this. For the countless hours of editing I've done, not
exposure.
A dime. Right? Yeah, we'll pay you with exposure, pay the bills with that. But for those who are passionate like we are and want to use Disparate Worlds as a vehicle to serve the communities, we've always thought it would be great to have our website be a place where people can go for guides on certain raids, to find guides on classes, right? How to play this class, quote unquote rotations, although none of these will really do rotations, but how to use those skills, how to chain them together to be effective, right? Or, guides on certain areas of the map, or how to find certain, whatever, or resources, right? If you're looking for a certain resource, here's a quick guide on how to, best places to go, kind of a thing, right? So we would love to get there eventually. Now, whether or not that happens, that will be, we'll see. But there's some clarity on that.
Yeah, for sure. I can tell you one thing for sure. We will be hosting maps because I am awful. I am in games. I am geographically handicapped without a map.
There's
coming up
answer.
Here, you're going to see something I learned in the second alpha that I didn't know the first one I did about how to find your group mates, which was amazing. So I was glad they had something without being too obnoxious about it, without being like, here, you're going to ping you on the map.
Yes.
So
honestly, I would love to get, like, as a member of our DW team, a theory crafter, and a good one, right? One of the number crunchers who tests stuff and crunches the numbers and
builds and stuff,
and writes and shares that. I would love to get a theory crafter, in our midst. But anyway, this is we can dream.
Yeah,
right?
a rabbit hole. Hey, you wanted to know where the rabbit hole was?
There it was. hey, put it on the map. Put it on the map.
Poe decided maybe he should try another class, so he created a dwarf cleric. He got a taste of the perception system, which is how lore in Pantheon is revealed to the player organically through the environment rather than through walls of text. It's interactive though, meaning Cohh could choose to pursue and explore these pings he received when in certain areas. This could lead him to search for more clues, complete what are called storylines, and possibly get some unique rewards. Cohh, however, elected to ignore this.
Nifster, love
As nighttime fell, we started to see the world in a new light, or rather, a low light. This made it tricky when Cohh grouped up with some other testers and had to find them in the dark, in an unfamiliar area, navigating purely by landmarks. Fortunately, once he got within a certain range...
So, actually, let me back up a little bit here. So, if you look in the left-hand side on the group, notice each of the circles just as a circle, like where their icon is their class. But when he got close to them...
had to find them in the dark,
it changes to a little compass.
Navigating purely by landmarks. Fortunately, once he got within a certain range, a direction indicator popped up on his UI to show him where they were. When he finally found them...
So there's a range.
I like that you're on your own for a bit, but once you get close, it'll help you kind of hone in on them.
Mm-hmm.
That the nameplates of group members were different from everyone else, and more importantly, the cheer emote works. Because each class is unique, group combat is where Pantheon really starts to shine. Kills came a bit easier, and XP came a bit faster. For a while anyway, until Pantheon proved once again that you need to be on top of your game. If you're not careful, even yard trash like
Fist
rats and bats can be lethal.
Taking a nap.
Cohh wrapped up
Cohh's
the
taking a
show.
nap.
Hopefully, next time Cohh will be able to get just a couple more levels and spend more time showcasing group gameplay and how to overcome the challenges.
Did you see who that was?
No, I didn't. Who?
In a dungeon that involves tight coordination and communication between his group members. Overall, though, I think this was very much needed to show someone just starting up the game, logging in, creating a character, and exploring
See that tree
the world
down there?
with
It's just
other
yellow.
players.
It's a yellow tree.
Just
you know
like you would when you first sit down to play Pantheon. This sort of stream is something the community has been asking for a long time, and it hasn't been until recently that the early player experience has been fleshed out enough to show publicly in a way that would represent it well. As such, Pantheon, for the first time ever, will be holding monthly pre-alpha tests starting in January 2023 for all pre-alpha testers. So things are ramping up, and there's likely to be a lot more opportunities to peek behind the curtain. If you don't want to be out of the loop about Pantheon's development as we move into the new year,
Sorry.
hit the subscribe button now, because this channel is dedicated to following it closely. I'm currently working on a year in review video for 2022 as sort of a continuation of my Saga of Pantheon's development thus far video that I released in 2021. So you definitely won't want to miss that one. If you want to make a difference in improving the quality and quantity of Bazgrim TV videos, click on the thanks button below this video, or head over to our Patreon page. Either way, it'll be a big help and greatly appreciated.
Right.
So, until the next one, stay curious and adventure on.
All right. Great video, and I am super grateful for him for breaking it down to the highlights and covering the most important stuff.
Yeah, it's good to see, and I don't think that graphics-wise there's anything that's been necessarily revealed. I like that, Cohh dipping a toe in the water of solo combat at low levels gives us a little bit of an idea as to what that's going to look like.
Right.
I wish there had been a little bit more coverage of the grouping, right, and how that worked out when they did that, especially since it's all low level. I would have liked to have seen more of the climbing, how that. Granted, now you can go to the Cohh video and actually go find all that if you want to.
Right, and there's also the 2-hour Goblin Cave video, which they did earlier this week on Tuesday, that was basically a dungeon crawl. Right. So if you want to see grouping there with a balanced group, you can check that out.
Yes, yeah. Their end of the year content is certainly better than Ash's creations. Ash's the live stream tomorrow. They're just going to be doing their like a few interviews really with folks.
Like a year-end review type thing.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a year-end review. It's just just chatting with some people. No new content reveals, right? So it's winding down very quietly. Granted, it's like 3 days from Christmas, right? So
okay,
it's good to see that Pantheon at least is giving us some pretty good stuff at the end of the year. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Definitely, I am excited. I'm glad that they're doing more. I agree with the statement he said that this was desperately needed, and having monthly testing is even more than what you get in Ashes, right?
It is, yeah. I haven't played anything since Alpha 1.
Yeah, so
waiting for spot testing now.
It's been like 18 months, right?
Yeah, I haven't been counting, but sure.
It was like last summer-ish, a year ago.
And honestly, given where it was, I think it needs some time to develop some stuff. So I'm okay with it not being, because I don't think there's enough to necessarily to spot test here and there. So
I'm looking forward to their next, when they start doing the tests and the next alpha, which will be much longer. So good. You got anything else?
No, I am good. I just want to say thank you to all of our friends that have joined us in our chat tonight. I know there's been, chat has been very lively. It's been great to catch up a little bit with Donler. I haven't seen Donler since we were hanging out together in New World, the first iteration. So it's been a minute, and some new names that I'm not necessarily, have seen. It's great to see Nefster again, but a number of new names that I will, not necessarily mentioned, but it's good to have you all here, and it's been great to follow you all's chat as well. We'll keep this going.
And we have a couple episodes in the hopper as far as plans over the next week and the week after. So look forward to the full DW episodes in the coming weeks.
Yes, that's.
I think it's time to say happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays indeed. Okay, Mr. Mox, we promised ourselves we would do a better sign-off this time.
Yes, that's right. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/disparateworlds, on Twitter at disparateworlds, on our website, disparateworlds.org. Also, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/disparateworlds. In addition, on our website and in the description is a link to our Discord. Please join us there.
Thank you. Yes, definitely want to say happy winter solstice.
Yes.
Chris Mahana Kwanzaa, all the things going on right now. Merry all of those things to you. For the most part, that is it for us this episode. All thank you for watching. Drop comments on the actual video. Tell you what, let this wrap up go visit the video again and put the likes in the comments in that comment section. That'll help us out too.
Absolutely. That could be your Christmas gift to us.
Right. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you all for watching. We definitely appreciate you being here. Take care of yourselves. Remember always to be immovable in your principles and irresistible in your path.